There's an ACC player in the transfer portal that I got nervous about every time Carolina had to face him last year. What does that mean now? He needs to be a Tar Heel.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. I want to thank you for making us your first listen or watch. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there, as well as all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, which, hang on, we got to talk more about. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go right now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Hey, as we get into the show today, I just want to say a special word of thanks. I had mentioned on yesterday's show that literally right as I was recording, we were about to face some potentially really scary thunderstorm, tornado kind of action on Monday evening. Thankfully, our family was all good. We had no damage to our home, most importantly, no physical harm. We did have a few tense minutes in our safe space, but all good. There was a tornado a couple miles from our house, but nothing here. Always scary moments when that happens. We're slated for more today, Wednesday, so hopefully those pass by as well. But I just wanted to say thank you to so many of you who reached out afterward to check in, to say how you doing. Really meant a lot. Thank you. It means the world. So here's where we're headed today. On Monday and Tuesday's show, we talked about what's next. Basically, this idea of Carolina missed out on Cliff Omori and Adu Thiero, or, that it didn't come to fruition at some level, and they ended up elsewhere and not at North Carolina. So if in yesterday's show we talked about what's next, today I want to move to talking about who's next and start looking at some of the actual names that I think could be good. I want to talk in segment 1 about a specific player, segment 2 about a specific player, and then 3 we'll just name a few others as well. So here's where I want to start. The first of those individual players I want to talk about is somebody that I've just developed a transfer portal crush on. Legitimately, though. It's like if anybody that went to like summer camp growing up, how you get like a camp crush or somebody that it's like, oh man, I know it's just for this week, but I love it. It's like, I feel that about this person I'm about to name. It's like the more I've read and watched and thought about, I'm like, ooh, I like that. I like that a lot for the Tar Heels. Now, I got to say, at this point, to my knowledge, there is no confirmed contact that I've seen or heard between Carolina and this player. I just want it to happen. I hope it can happen. And that's enough of the mystery. It is Florida State's Jamir Watkins, who is in the transfer portal. He played 2 years at VCU, played last year at Florida State, had another year at VCU, but was out injured. He's got 1 year left. A couple just statistical things or accolades for Jamir Watkins. Last year, honorable mention, all ACC. This guy really does a bit of everything. I call him a Swiss Army knife, but all the blades are sharp and ready to go. To wit, you ready for this? I know FSU was a little bit of a 500-ish blah team last year, but even still, on that team, he led the Seminoles in points per game, rebounds per game, steals per game, free throw percentage by qualifying shooters. There was a guy that shot better but had like not many attempts. Second on the team in assists, and that was just by one. He was 1 assist shy of being tied for the lead. Also second in blocks per game behind just Baba Miller. This dude did everything for Leonard Hamilton's team last year. A jack of all trades, and absolutely somebody that, because of that jack of all trades, at the NBA level might suffer from that instead of being elite at one thing, like maybe a 3-and-D type guy would be. But all these trades are things that at the D1 level are absolutely high level enough for him to compete and succeed and impact winning in a big way. Scoring, rebounding, defense. He can defend multiple positions, can also initiate offense. Not only is he somebody that I look at as being a front court player, but as I said, basically tied for the lead in assists for Florida State last year. That's incredible. So a two-way player, which is what you got to do. One of the things you see in this modern game, what are teams going to do? They're going to find your weak spot defensively, and they're going to attack it over and over again. You can't do that to Jamir Watkins. I love what he brings. And I said it in the cold open, but a lot of times in this transfer portal age, I kind of judge whom I want to go after by whom I hated playing against or who I would hate to play against. If it's somebody that I'm like, I mean, they seem like they should be good, but I really never worried when we had to play him, right? With Jamir Watkins, every time I was preparing like a show for when Carolina would play against Jamir Watkins, it'd be like, all right, we got to watch out for Watkins because he could hurt us real bad. Well, that tells me that's a guy I want on this team. For example, anytime Carolina played Florida State this year, all three times, I would say things like, you might even remember this. Boy, I love Baba Miller. I love his potential. I think he, could be something. But I'm not all that worried about him because he never really does anything. But Jamir Watkins, it terrified me. I didn't want to have to play him. Had one bigger game against Carolina this year, the first game where Carolina had to come from double digits down in the second half. He had 17 in that game, 7 of 14 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 8 boards, 2 assists, and a steal. His season averages 15.6 points a game, 6 rebounds, 2.8 assists. You're talking about a front court guy that can do some of that. 1.9 steals a game. Man. 34.4% from 3 on 2.9 attempts per game. So it's not high volume and it's not high level, but it's good enough. And I love this. 79.5% from the free throw line. I'd like to see that maybe a little higher, but on 6.2 attempts per game. He's attacking the rim. He's putting the defense at a disadvantage over and over again. And you know that Hubert Davis loves that kind of thing. Scored a career-high 34 points against Virginia Tech this past year in the ACC tournament. In fact, that was the game right before Carolina played them in the ACC tournament. So a guy that can go out and get a bucket. Let me give you a couple things about what I love, something I'm a little leery about, and the pitch I would make to him. The things I love. Many people worry about players' productivity when they transfer up a level, like how will Cade Tyson translate from Belmont to North Carolina? Well, as I said, Watkins started off at VCU, transferred up to FSU almost across the board. His numbers were better last year at Florida State than they ever were at VCU. So I'm not worried about him transferring up or reduplicating that or duplicating that wherever he goes this year. Number 2, what I love about this dude, consistency. Again, on a Florida State team that was up and down, he was the model of consistency. He was the outlier. Florida State played 33 games last year. He scored in double figures in 28 of those. Of the 5 games where he wasn't in double figures, 4 of them he scored 7, 8, 9, and 9, meaning that the lone game, he had just one game all season under 7 points, and that was the first game of the season. So all of that means after that one game to start the season where he scored under 7 or more points in all remaining of Florida State's 32 games, double digits in the final 19 games of the season for the Seminoles. So I love that. Next thing that I love, similar to Harrison Ingram, you've heard me say this over and over last year. Harrison Ingram was able to be the guy, to be the man last year because he didn't have to be the man. Struggled a bit at Stanford when he was the focal point, but when he came and was just one of the guys, essentially the third offensive option, sometimes the fourth, sometimes the second, just depended on the day, whatever, but certainly not number 1. That's when he thrived. I think the same is true of Jamir Watkins. Yes, he was the guy at Florida State and did well with it, but I think he will be an even better basketball player with even better efficiency and even potentially better all sorts of stuff when he's further down the scouting report. So coming to Carolina, he would be option 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, depending on who's in the lineup at a given time. And so you're telling me the third or fourth option on the depth chart in scoring is a guy that has a career high 34 points and can do everything that this guy can do? Come on. I'll take that all day long. Fourth thing I like about him, he's a New Jersey kid. Now, obviously, it'd be better if I could say he's a North Carolina kid. He's not. But Elliot Cadeau, New Jersey kid. Now, it might be that he winds up going somewhere up there like a Rutgers or St. John's or Seton Hall, something like that. But Hubert Davis loves these guys from up there, these New Jersey guards, these New York guys that just have the edge to them. He wants to get up there and play up in that neck of the woods. And so I think that's a win for Carolina. But here's the question for me. Because remember, what Carolina is pursuing and needs to be pursuing is front court players. The big question that we have to be able to answer is, can Jamir Watkins play the 4? He's 6'7", at least listed at 6'7", smaller than Harrison Ingram. But I do believe that he has the athleticism to play like a small ball 4 sort of role. You just got to be wise in how you scheme it out if you're the staff. What's neat about it to me is pretty similarly sized to Cade Tyson. And so here's what I do. I roll both of these guys out as your 3 and your 4, and it's essentially interchangeable, which is great in an era of positionless basketball. Just send 2 6'7", 6'8" guys out there and let them be your 3 and 4 and cook. I love it. And because of his defensive versatility, he also can positionally move around, play the 4, play the 3. Heck, in a massive lineup, could play the 2 if you needed him to, with all his capability of leading the break and being a guy that spreads the ball around, a guy that starts the offense. That's what I'm looking for there. And so I love this idea with Jamir Watkins. And so what's the pitch? It's the same pitch that if I'm Hubert Davis, I would have made to Adou Thiero. You just saw last year. You watched it. You played against it. Harrison Ingram blew up coming from Stanford to play the 4 for us. Now, close your eyes and picture yourself doing exactly that next season. That's who you could be, Jamir Watkins, on, all due respect to Florida State, on a team that could compete for a national championship next season. That could be you. Now, let's say, yes, Jamir Watkins' 3-point percentage, it needs to improve. But Harrison Ingram, coming to North Carolina, had never shot above 32% in his 2 years at Stanford. Last season, 38.5% at North Carolina. Why? Because he didn't have to be the guy. He had more space and time. He could do it. Same thing with Jamir Watkins. Last year at FSU was like, what'd I say, 34.4% from 3? Could playing with better talent do the same thing for him and give him better NBA draft value? The pitch is there. Just got to sell it, and he's got to buy it. So we'll see what happens. Now, thinking of other players, there's another guy out in the transfer portal who entered it late, similar to Jamir Watkins, who went toe-to-toe with Kansas and Hunter Dickinson in the NCAA tournament, who has a name so nice, you got to say it twice. We'll talk about him in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, to exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. The next player I want to talk about today is a guy that would also be transferring up, again with a name so nice, you gotta say it twice, and that's Achor Achor, or Achor Achor. I always go back and forth. I've heard commentators say it different ways. So forgive me for that. This guy, he's listed at 6'9", 227. And that's kind of like a tweener for Carolina, right? It's like, could he come in and play the 5, or would you need him to come in and play the 4? That's the question that I have right out of the gate with him. I just want to say that and get it out there. For me, if he's the target for the 5 for the center position, I think it would have to essentially be a minutes split with J-Wash, because I don't think he could hold up to the rigors of being Carolina's main dominant 5. So let's just say that's what we're looking at with this type of player. Last year at Samford, 16.1 points a game, 6.1 boards, 1.5 assists, 1.8 blocks. Hear that. 43.5% from 3 on 1.9 attempts a game. Hear that as well. 71.2% from the free throw line on 5.2 attempts a game. 62.1% from 2-point range. You absolutely love to see that. Season high last year, 35 points in a game against Western Carolina. And you might say, Western Carolina, yeah, they were actually a really good basketball team last year. So don't whatever. No, that's a big deal. And then I mentioned that NCAA tournament game against Kansas. He scored 23 points, 2 of 6 from 3, had 8 boards, 2 assists, 0 turnovers against Kansas. And I know they were a little bit depleted, but still had Hunter Dickinson out there and other guys. That's a big deal. Why? Because it tells me right away it's transferable up, and he can do it, and he can hang at this level. So similar to Cade Tyson, not worried about that transferability. So let's say a couple things about him. What do we like? Well, I even see it in those stats I mentioned back to back. On one hand, there's the rim protection, 1.8 blocks per game last year. On the other hand, he can step out and hit it when he needs to. So undersized for the 5 as Carolina's starting 5? Maybe, yes. But we've seen others do it and succeed in the ACC. Norchad Omier, DJ Burns, albeit they're differently sized guys in terms of weight who have that weight to throw around. But he is more above the rim player than those types of guys are, as evidenced by these 2 blocks a game. What does North Carolina still need? Rim protection. They've missed out on a couple of those others. Our man Achor Achor could bring that. But he's also this unique player that on the other end, he can step out and hit it. And so what does that provide? It provides that modern spacing that you need, that you have with a guy like Jalen Washington as well. And I think that could serve Carolina really, really well, that he brings this interesting blend on both ends of the court. Another thing I like about this young man is that he has the capability to play in varying styles. At Samford, they played what's called Bucky ball. Their head coach is Bucky McMillan, a guy who just basically, they're going up and down the court, breakneck speed, breakneck pace all the time, up and down, up and down, up and down, guys in and out of the game. It's wild to watch and fun to watch. But he, even as a big, thrived and survived in that system, did very well for himself. Thank you very much. But he can also slow it down when needs be. He can play at a slow rate. He can downshift and downgrade and do that. And so, I said earlier, I think it can translate up, but I get that the question's going to be there. Does it work? And the answer for me again is yes. I've seen it enough from him. I've seen it enough from him against good talent. I've seen, across the college basketball landscape, we've seen it now from enough players transferring up from the mid-major level. And it's like, yeah, this dude can play, man. He can ball. He can compete. And from what my eyeballs tell me of watching college basketball players all over the country, that I don't just do it here for Tar Heels, but I do it. I host Locked On College Basketball, where I'm watching these dudes all the time. My man can ball, y'all. I'm telling you, he can do it. And you've seen it against Hunter Dickinson in Kansas again. So it's there. The con, the big question for me, as I mentioned off the top, is, at what did I say his weight is? 227. If you add him to the list, you still don't have a big body. You don't have anybody that can defend the interior with thickness that you need. And it's not that you have to roll that kind of guy out there every game, but you need it for the games where the opponent has somebody like that you need to be able to stop or have somebody that at least can give 5 fouls to, right? And I don't think that's Achor. I don't think he can be your only front court ad. So to that point, if Carolina adds him, I don't know that they also would want to add Jamir Watkins. That's part of the weird nuance of trying to add through the transfer portal or roster construction ever, really, is you got to look at how these pieces fit together. And so of the two guys that I've talked about today, they could fit together, but I'm not convinced that these are the two guys that you could start together in the front court and rely on that as being your 30 minutes a game guys. Watkins, you probably could. I don't know that you could with Achor unless he's playing your 4. And then the question becomes, can he do that? So I do have questions about him. Hear me always. Anytime I'm putting these players in front of you, I'm not just blindly saying, hey, I think this is the guy and there's no warts and there's no possible downside. There's warts and downside with everyone, just as there's yay and upside with everyone. I just want to make sure to expose us to all of those things. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And again, this is not somebody that I've seen really any public mention of Carolina contact with. I know there's a lot of rumors and speculation always about like, ooh, get this guy. Sure. Okay. Yeah. But it's not been publicly confirmed. And so I don't want to put any false hope out about that either. Now, beyond these two guys we've talked about today, there are multiple other players still out there worth a look. And here's what I need to tell you. Don't lose heart. Carolina's going to get the guys that they need. We'll talk more about that in just a second. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. And I know what you're saying, flag on the play. Isaac, come on. You've already talked about it. But really, there's so much great stuff in this game. Let me tell you some more. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more prizes you unlock. Let me tell you about a couple of them. Unique stickers that you can trade with your friends to complete albums for big prizes. New playing pieces that you can travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis to taunt your friends when you smash their buildings. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton of those even include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's also always something fun to discover with Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, get off the couch, get out of bed, wherever you are, go download it right now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. This episode is also brought to you by Yahoo Finance. Okay, for many years, folks, I need you to know, I had my own financial spreadsheet where I was trying to track all of my various finances, keep up with it. It was so much time and energy and effort and commitment trying to keep up with it all. And I just remember wishing, like, could something do this for me so I don't have to do it myself anymore? It was fun for a while, but I'm over it. And then actually my financial advisor told me he does everything for his money that I was trying to do with a thing called Yahoo Finance. He just plugs it all right in there. So I was like, all right, let me give it a go. So I did, and I loved it. And I've been all in ever since with using Yahoo Finance to keep all my finances in one spot. So let me tell you more about it. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. So whether you're a seasoned investor or you're just looking for extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. You can securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including your 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. One more time, that's yahoofinance.com. I want to say a couple more words about the who of the transfer portal targets that Carolina is and will be going after. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again today, and I'm going to continue to say it until I'm blue in the face and everyone out there believes me and hears me and gets it. There really and truly are talented basketball players out there. There really truly are still talented fits for North Carolina out there. It's just about identifying that talent, identifying that fit with the rest of the roster, and then targeting that player or that combination of players. I know it's a bummer to lose out on the guys that Carolina has lost out on for various reasons or interest at various degrees. But this is the recruiting game. It's always been that way in high school recruiting. It's just now it's becoming more prevalent in the transfer portal era. So just like high school recruiting, hang on, hold tight, keep your eyes out, keep your eyes peeled, and wait to see what happens. Reserve judgment, we'll get there. For me, it's 2 that Carolina needs to target. There are 3 more available scholarships for the Tar Heels, and I think they need to utilize 2 of them and then give 1 to a walk-on as they do at times. That, to me, completes the puzzle for Carolina. But specifically, it's not just any 2 talented players. Like, you're not going after Cam Christie from Minnesota, a shooting guard. For me, and I think clearly, obviously, for the Tar Heels, what this comes down to now is front court help. The Heels are set in the backcourt. They look great there. They have everything they need to have a successful, high-level national championship caliber year. I truly and honestly believe that, and I hope you do too. But they're not there yet in the front court. But they can be. They can get there. So what are some of the other names that you need to know that Carolina either is or might be contacting or, should be contacting perhaps that we look at? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more names that I just want to mention right now. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's others that I've been thinking about, rolling around, contemplating how they might fit, those kind of things. In no particular order here, I'll just mention them. And some of these are more oriented towards being Carolina's 5, their center, and some more towards being their 4 power forward. Some could float back and forth between those 2 roles depending on fit and other personnel. So the first name I'll mention to you is Great Osibor from Utah State. This is a name I think I've brought up his name before on the show, but want to say it again. The thought is and has been that he would follow his head coach from Utah State, Danny Sprinkle, up to Washington, where Coach Sprinkle's the head coach. It would, in fact, be the second time that Great Osibor has followed him from school to school. He just came to Utah State with Coach Sprinkle last year. There was buzz about him to Kentucky for a while. He pulled out of that, has visited and talked to other schools. Another guy that's a little bit undersized, similar to what we just talked about with Achor Achor at 6'9", but is somebody that can hold his own because he is a bit stronger, has a bit bigger build to him. Not going to be a guy that steps out and shoots threes, but he is a guy that could anchor things in the middle and do well for Carolina. Next, this would be another kind of more true center role is Ugonna Onyenso, who is a player from Kentucky that's transferring out. I don't necessarily love it because he's got a pretty severely limited offensive game, but he is a true 7-footer. He provides some good defensive protection, would be a lob threat, was hurt at the beginning of last year, and so that fizzled out. But one of the reasons I think about him is because there were some crystal balls for him to go to Alabama before Alabama landed Cliff Omori. So Ugonna Onyenso is somebody that I think you at least got to take a look at for fit and see, does he make sense for our roster and what we have. Another guy I want to mention, whose name I realized, by the way, you would talk about Achor Achor, and getting that wrong. I've got to get that dialed in with him. But another is South Florida transfer. I had been saying Kashawn prior. It's actually Kaysen prior. I noticed it because he actually put the pronunciation on his Twitter profile. This is another 6'10" guy. Could play center by height, but really is too thin, like 210, I think is his weight. So really would be a 4 for Carolina, but again, a big one. Have a lot of requisite height, but plays all over the floor, can step out, stretch out, and do it. Had a really nice season for South Florida, somebody that had transferred up to the South Florida level and would be transferring up again. But man, I think he can handle it. And he's a guy that multiple SEC schools are after. Definitely a guy that can translate up and do well. Another's JT Toppin, who is a guy that just finished his freshman year. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. not much of a shooter, was about 34% last year, the same as Jamir Watkins, but like under 1 3 attempted a game. So he is a guy that is essentially a non-shooter that played the 5 at New Mexico, but I don't know that he could at North Carolina. I think he might have to play the 4 at North Carolina, but we would see. Again, it depends on personnel and what you want to do with your lineup. And the other I'll mention, this is the 5th of that list of 6 that I talked about, is Dillon Mitchell from Texas, whom I really, really, really like his game. There's just one glaring thing. Doesn't shoot from outside at all. I mean, not at all. And he's another guy that would be a power forward. And so I don't think that's what Carolina wants or needs, but everything else about him I like. So it's somebody you at least want to look at and think about. And then the last one, I'm just going to say his name, but also plug something for tomorrow, Thursday, is Coleman Hawkins from Illinois. And you're like, Isaac, why is it taking you this long to mention Coleman Hawkins? Here's why. We're actually on Thursday going to drop a bonus episode talking specifically about Coleman Hawkins because there's so much interest from the Carolina fan base in him. And in fact, this kind of spurred up because I'm going to be joined by Cameron Salerno, who writes for CBS Sports, who actually grew up, he and Coleman Hawkins about 15 minutes apart. He covered Coleman extensively in high school, has followed his trajectory, knows so much about him. So he's going to join me for a little bonus episode on Thursday. And so I saved that till the end. Also as kind of a bonus for those of you that have hung around till the end so that you can get that like, oh, that's going to be fun. So stay tuned for that. So that's some of the who I think Carolina should be targeting in the transfer portal right now to round out that front court. What's actually going to come together? There's no way to know. That's the joy and the frustration of the transfer portal, but we'll wait to see. And you know I'm going to keep you up to date on it all the time, give you my takes and thoughts, and I would love to hear yours as well. To do so, you can join the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. It's free to join. The link's in the show notes. We'd love to have you. It's growing every day. Come on, be part of it. If you haven't subscribed to the show, by the way, on audio and video, please do that. So easy to do. And it'll help you make sure you get our content every day. But also, it's a great way to help support the show if you love and believe in it. I want to remind you, gang, that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, twice. One with Coach Rob and one with Cam Salerno talking about Coleman Hawkins. But until then, peace.